following is an analysis of I Got It Bad measures 15 through 24. So we'll start with measure 15, a particularly lush 5-note voicing, actually 6 when we include the 6th string open, of a G chord with an augmented 11th and a 13th. A lot of activity here. Okay, so measure 1 we have an ascending bass line, which is primarily G major. We have in the second half of the measure a C minor 6 chord, 5-note voicing, that ascending bass line. Okay, measure number 16. Now, in measure number 16, I'm using a voicing with the 2, 3, 4, 6 family, this one. But I dropped, or I ascended rather, from the 1st position all the way up to the 8th position. Ordinarily, when we include other chord families, we could have done that a lot more effectively by doing the E diminished 7th chord here. But that would be the chord family 1, 2, 3, 5, which we're not really exploring in depth in this particular course. So that accounts for that large leap from the 1st position to the 8th position. So again, here's the effect, transitional between measure 15 and measure 16. C minor 6, then back to the 1st position for this G 7th chord. Okay, now measure number 17. Very complex chord progression there. I opted to do this to explore the harmonic aspect of this, the reharmonization concept, and to have an interesting bass line. All throughout these arrangements, bass line is a principal consideration. So ordinarily, the most obvious voices would be the soprano voice, the actual melody, and the bass line. So if the bass line is jumping all over the place and not having any particular structure to it, the arrangement is not that interesting. So in order to accomplish this in this particular measure, I use some rather hard chord transitions. In beat number 1 of measure 17, we have quintal harmony, which, like the quartal harmony, is an effective reharmonization device. But in this instance, we have perfect fifths that are stacked one upon the other. So that's quintal harmony. Say in the next beat we have a C major 7th chord with a flat 13th using the chord family 1, 2, 4, and 5. That would be a C major 9th chord, and in the 4th beat, this rather awkward stretch, we have a C major 7th with, actually it's a C major chord with an augmented 11th. Now measure number 18. Measure number 18, we have a C chord with an augmented 11th and an augmented 5th. That would be this one. And again, the reason why I'm using that is to continue the chromatic bass line, to take me from this voicing the last beat of measure 17 to the 1st beat of measure 18 to the 2nd beat of measure 18. Then I have a pedal point there, and on the last beat we have a D dominant 7 arpeggio with a +5, which actually would be, you could construe it as the flattened supertonic of the next chord coming up, the C minor 6. So the D flat 7th arpeggio would be the flattened supertonic of the C minor 6. Now here we are at measure number 19. Okay, measure number 19 is actually the minor version of measure number 17. Measure 17, we had this melody. Measure number 19. but instead of harmonizing a major tonality, in this particular measure we're using a C minor 6 chord with various changes here. We have a chromatically ascending bass line, and then on the second beat we have this rather awkward C minor 6 with a major 7th in the soprano and the 9th in the bass, creating an interesting dissonant effect. Then the E flat resolving to the D in the 4th beat. And then in measure number 20, we resolve the D to the C. So beats 2 and 3 of that, the resolution is the C there, from this chord to this. And then in beats number 2 we have a C minor 6 arpeggio, followed in beat number 4 by a pedal tone, and then the resumption of the melody there on the upbeat of beat 4 of measure number 20. Measure 21. Measure 21 we have in an F sharp dominant 7th chord with the chord family 1, 2, 4, 5, and then a G7 block chord with 5-note voicing. Then in the 3rd beat we have an arpeggio, followed by the G major 7th chord 1st inversion. Measure 22. Okay, measure 22 we have a pedal E on the 3rd beat, and in beat number 4 a D diminished 7th chord arpeggio rather in 2nd inversion. Measure 23. Measure 23 we have a D diminished 7th arpeggio. Then in beat 2 and 3 we have an A minor chord, beats 2, 3, and 4 actually, with that descending bass line. And finally in beat measure 24, measure 24 we have a continuation of that descending bass line, chromatic, and then finally in beats 3 and 4 of measure 24 we have a D 9th arpeggio in 1st inversion as a connective link. Thank you.